everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Hi, hello. Welcome to a little tier ranking video. I thought it was probably high time to kind of sort through the sci-fi books that I have read throughout my life, because if you guys have been on my channel for a little while, you know sci-fi is a new genre to me, and I wanted to see exactly one, how many I've read throughout my life, and two, I wanted to do this tier ranking thing before it got too out of hand. Because I love sci-fi now. So honestly, if I read more than I have now, it would get a little out of hand. I was gonna do it with fantasy books originally, but as we well know, I read upwards of 70 fantasy books a year. That would be an unreasonable tier ranking list. So we're gonna talk about all the sci-fis that I've read in my life up to this point. If I've missed any, that's because they just weren't in my Goodreads, and or I thought they were fantasy. There are some on here that are dystopian on the edge. So I'm like, well, we're just gonna consider it because it's dystopian, so technically futuristic in a way. Or there are some in here that are fantasy sci-fis, so, but to me they lean a little bit more sci-fi. We're gonna get into it. So for tiers today, we went with a simple gaming tier system, if you will. We have S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, try again, and then game over. So those are just like the absolutely terrible ones. So try again, I've listed here because you guys know I have terrible memory. And honestly, a fair number of these books are probably gonna be rereads for me if I don't remember a damn thing about them. So first up on this list here, we have Stars Undying by Emery Robin. And this one was okay for me. It's not bad, it's actually quite good. And I think upon a reread, it would work very well. So it might be a try again. Yeah, it might be a try again. Next up, we have Finna, which is a little novella that just honestly wasn't for me. It was kind of not it. I gave it, I think, 3 stars. It was weird in the way that I didn't really expect it to be weird. Portal fantasy vibes, yet sci-fi. I don't really know how to describe that one. Jess's Misery is straight up game over. I really didn't like this one, but I really wanted to, which makes me very sad. It was not good. I think I gave it 2 stars. Leviathan Wakes, I think, is pretty good. It's B tier for me. B tier for me. That was like mystery in space. Very fun. Up next, we have the first S tier, which is the 5th season. Yes, it's fantasy because there's magic, but it is also sci-fi. It's a sci-fi fantasy. And that is a thumbnail representing the entire trilogy. The entire trilogy is S tier for me. So good. Favorite trilogy of all time. Everybody needs to read it. Speaking of S tier, Gideon, my girl Gideon. We're considering that entire series S tier, even though Caro and Nona are not quite 5 stars for me, because it's fantastic. It keeps getting better on every read. Gideon is my favorite character ever. I love that series so much. I will keep rereading it until the end of time, and I apologize for the person I'm gonna become when Electo is released. Up next, we have Psalm, which is going to count for both Psalm and Prayer, and because of that, it's A tier. Prayer is not quite up there with S tier. I feel like this whole series needs another book in the series to make it S tier for me. Psalm, though, was a favorite book of mine 2 years ago. I think it was the favorite book of the year about 2 years ago, so it was great. So that's why it's in A tier. Up next, we have August Kiko and the Mechas from Space. I think this one's definitely B tier. It had some issues with characterization and it just fell a little flat, but it was so much fun to read. So it's gonna go after Leviathan Wakes because it wasn't as good as Leviathan Wakes, but it wasn't a C tier book for me. It was definitely B tier. Another one that I think I gave 4 stars, but is probably a C tier book for me. I don't know what it is. I gave it 4 stars after reading it, and like now whenever I think of this book, I don't like it. So what the hell I was on when I rated that, I don't know, but it's fine. It's a good sci-fi book, very political, very intricate. I would actually say that if you like either The Stars Undying or A Memory Called Empire, read the other because they're both very politically leaning. The language in A Memory Called Empire was definitely pretty good and like really interesting. Like the politics in A Memory Called Empire were very interesting, and it is a sapphic book, so it's good for that. Then we have Bluebird, which was definitely a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it, and I liked it more than August Kitco. It was so good. I really, really enjoyed it. I don't remember what I rated it because it's been a little bit since I've read it. I think I read it last year sometime, but it was highly enjoyable. I loved the aspects of technology in here, and it's got lesbian gunslingers in space. So like you can never go wrong with that. Another one that I am putting up into A tier. Is it A tier or is it S tier for me? It's like right in between Seven Devils. Do I like Saw more than Seven Devils? Slightly. Okay, we'll put it there. Seven Devils and Seven Mercies, this duology by Elizabeth May and Laura Lamb, is one of the best sci-fi duologies I've ever read. If you like YA sci-fi and are trying to branch out, go with the Seven Devils duology. It is so good and so wonderfully done. It feels like a book that kind of sits between YA and adult because it's very approachable, it's very human, and you connect with the characters really, really well, but it has such a grand space operatic feel. Found family to the next level, queer characters, disabled characters, all of it. It's so good. Everybody needs to read it. It's so good. Another one here is Dune, and I think, where am I gonna put Dune? Did I really like Dune? Or did I like Leviathan Wakes more than Dune? This is like a self-analysis. Did I like it more than Leviathan Wakes? No. Did I like it more than Bluebird? No. Did I like it more than August Kiko? Yes. Okay, that's good. It's so weird to compare some of these books because like, how do you compare a classic in this genre to some of the stuff that we have now? I don't know, that's bizarre. Anyways, okay, the last watch is some of the best sci-fi that I've read ever. It's so good and so much fun. I cannot wait for the third in this series whenever it comes out. The author just released a new book called Rubicon, which is not in the same series, but it is from the same author. So I'm here for it, and we're gonna read it at some point. It's on my shelves, so we're gonna read it at some point. Fantastic. The Last Watch and The Exiled Fleet, both of those are tied together with the same thumbnail. I've done that with all of the series except for The Wayfarers, because The Wayfarers one is a companion series, and the companion series, to me, each of the books stand on their own in a different way. So we split that one up, but every other series is combined into one. The next one is Isaac Asimov. Honestly, could do without. No, that's a game over. I didn't like that one at all. It's just, it was weird. It was iRobot, one of the first of his like Foundations series. I don't know, he's got so many books out there. Okay, No Fat Gloss is a really good sci-fi as well that I really want to read the rest of the series in. I think I need to get my hands on a copy of No Fat Gloss and the next two and like read them all in sequence, because this was very fun. And I think at the time that I had read this one, it was after I had read Red Rising, and it had a lot of the themes of Red Rising as well. Like I found a few things quite similar between the two, but it was so well done and it just felt cinematic, which makes sense because the author, Essa Hansen, works on movies and stuff. So it makes sense why it feels so cinematic. And I think that that whole trilogy could be a favorite. But as of right now, the first book, which is the only one that I've read, it's a B tier book for me. Up next, we have our first YA. We have Iron Widow, which is by Xuanzhe Zhao. And this was definitely good to me because y'all know YA is not really my favorite thing anymore. It's just like hitting you over the head with feminism. And like, I get it. I get that that's the point of the book, but it's so much. But I really enjoyed the world aspect of Iron Widow. And I honestly forgot it was sci-fi until the very end. And when we reached the ending, I was like, oh yeah, oh my God, it's sci-fi. So I'm very excited for Heavenly Tyrant, which is the sequel, which isn't coming out this year. It's coming out next year. And the next one is Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. This one was okay for me, but there was so much going on in this book and in this world. And it was compared to Becky Chambers, which no, you don't compare things to Becky Chambers. I liked it a lot more than I liked A Memory Called Empire, but I don't quite think it's a B tier book for me. Okay, so now we're gonna do the Wayfarers series. I'm gonna put them in order here real quick. The Wayfarers series by Becky Chambers. Love of my life. Long Way to a Small Hungry Planet, S tier. It is S tier. It is slightly better than The Last Watch. Close and Common Orbit, S tier. Not as good as The Last Watch. A Spaceborne Few, B tier book. I'm making so many people mad with that one because that one is a favorite of most of my friends. And A Galaxy and a Ground Within is S tier as well. Actually, which I don't remember which one is my favorite out of this series anymore. I think actually Long Way to a Small Hungry Planet is A tier. Close and Common and Galaxy are S tier for me. And Record is B tier for me. All fantastic books, which is why I own them all on my shelves here. And I've been seriously considering a reread of all these books because there's something so unparalleled with Becky Chambers' works. I can't even describe it. I'm so glad that I read them in order as well, because they do all tie together in some way, and they slowly get more inhuman as you go through, because it deals, like, the last book has not a single human character in the entire book. And Galaxy, I think, is my favorite of the series. Close and Common Orbit is like second to mine. It's so good. I love that one so much. And I think Orbit has a little bit of a different vibe than the other three because it focuses so clearly on just two characters, and it gives us backstory and also future current stuff. I really liked Orbit. I loved Close and Common Orbit. I mean, I love them all, let's be real. Up next we have Gear Breakers. This one is another YA that just didn't do it for me. I wanted to really love it. It was just kind of predictable and a little bit off, I think. But it's not a bad book. It's gonna go there. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. Really surprisingly loved this book. Did I like it more than Leviathan Wakes though? Yes. Is it a B tier or an A tier? Yes, that feels right. This is a fun experiment, truly. Anyways, yes, it's an A tier book. It was fantastic. I still have yet to read the sequel, which I have it on my shelves. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing surprised the hell out of me. I was expecting to not like it very much, or just kind of go in and find it middling. I really enjoyed it. It was a great time. Up next, we have Chilling Effect, which I'm considering both Chilling Effect and Prime Deceptions, which is the book 1 and 2. I have yet to read book 3, but I really want to because this series is so much fun. It's so much fun. Like, it's not like groundbreaking sci-fi in any way, but it's definitely one of the more fun sci-fi books that I've read. And I think that is what sci-fi needs to be more often than not. Like, yes, I get enough from the like epic sci-fis like Leviathan Wakes and The Last Watch and that kind of stuff. But when you get a rompy sci-fi like Valerie Valdez has written here, it's so funny and it's so good. And you know, you can never go wrong when you have cats in space, right? Like, it's such a good time reading these books, and I think that's what it is that really gets me. Like, sure, it's not groundbreaking, sure, they're not like 5-star books for me, but they're so fun, and that's the best. And sometimes you just really need a lighthearted book like that. That's definitely an A-tier book for me. Space opera, though, this one was bananas and strange, but it's not bad. It felt, oh God, I think my friend back when I read it had the perfect description for it and I don't remember what it was. It's like some kind of like linguistic acid trip. Like, it's just so weird. And I'm glad I read it because I needed to experience it. But it was so weird. I think that's the one that is like Eurovision in space. Yes, there's a singing competition in that one. So take that with what you will. It was, again, fun, rompy, but I think it was so linguistically twisted that it was a lot for me. And that's coming from someone who loves Gideon the Ninth. Blackwater Sister is a weird, like, fantasy sci-fi that I read a couple years ago that is honestly super forgettable. And I didn't enjoy it when I was reading it originally. So, C tier. To Be Taught If Fortunate, another Becky Chambers. This one I think kind of aligns with a record of Spaceborne Few in the way of like, it was okay. And all my friends who love Becky Chambers loved it so much more than I did. So it's bottom of B tier for me, I think. Sleeping Giants was forgettable, not that good. So that one's a game over. All Systems Red, which is the first Murderbot book. It's been a hot second since I've read it, but I really did enjoy the Murderbot book and I need to continue with that series. I want to get my hands on a box set of Murderbot so that I can just like read through all of the novellas and then the novel that is out for that series. But as of right now, book 1, B tier. Solid read. Solid. We love Murderbot and his little anxious beans. Next one is The Space Between Worlds, which is a portal fantasy that was definitely interesting. I liked it more than A Memory Called Empire, but less than a Light from Uncommon Stars. So we're gonna pop it there. It's one of the ones that I don't remember a whole lot about, but it's there. So anyways, next up we have Vicious by V.E. Schwab, which I've considered a fantasy for so long until I told my friend to read it. I told my friend SJ to read it and she was like, this is not a fantasy, this is a sci-fi. And I'm like, you're right, the vibes. And honestly, like it didn't blow me away in any faction, but it's still a good book. and I am considering reading book 2, but I probably won't read book 2 until book 3 is out, whenever that happens. So as for now, we shall put it in B tier. Next up, we have The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi, and this one just really didn't do it for me. Yeah, probably right about there. I read it because one, it's SJ's one of her favorite sci-fis, and it like correlates really well to her sci-fi series that she's writing, and it was like one of the first epics that I wanted to read, and it just I couldn't care less about the characters in that book. So it was just fine. Which is why it is there. The Dragon Pearl by Yuan Lee is definitely a game over. It was such a sad game over too, because my guys, that little middle grade had so much potential to be so fantastic. The world was so cool, and it was so poorly done. Like, it was just bad. That one is definitely a bad. Red Rising is the next one. This one, you know, I got rid of my physical copy because I was like, I'm never gonna read any more of these books. And yet every time I go on the damn internet, it's like the internet is like, Jen, you should read more of these books because like, what if they get better? And like, okay, Red Rising is an adult Hunger Games. I don't understand why everybody loves Darrow. Darrow is a garbage man, okay? I don't get it. I don't get the hype of Darrow, okay? I really don't. And yet it intrigues me. So is it a try again, or is it just a C tier book for me? I don't think I really want to reread it. So I think I'm just gonna pop it in here. Yeah, okay, we're gonna put it there. Next up, we have Binti. This one, again, was kind of mid for me. I liked Finna more than Binti. I didn't like that one. Okay, so kind of in there. It's a novella. It was fine. Just didn't do it for me. Again, which is so sad because so many people absolutely love that novella series so much. It just didn't do it for me. Bonds of Brass was so enjoyable when I read it. I have not yet read the next two. I don't know if it was worth reading any more than that. That book, Bonds of Brass, was definitely very fun and I enjoyed it a lot. Will I ever continue with that series? It remains to be seen. Probably no, because you guys know I have so many series that I need to continue with. Next up, we have The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, which is a fantastic freaking book. It's so good. I think it goes for me so good. I want to reread it before I dive into the sequel. This is listed on Goodreads as a fantasy, which I don't think it should be because it's very sci-fi. It's got like weird monsters invading a city. It's got like portal world energy. I don't know. It's got sci-fi elements to me. It's more sci-fi than fantasy for sure, but it was so good. Up next, we have Warcross. Again, this is just kind of mid for me. I'm gonna pop it at the end. Next up, we have Scythe, which is good. It's not that good. I've read the first two, and I've seemed like I was reading it around the time where like everyone on the internet was reading Scythe and the Scythe trilogy, and am I the only person out there who just didn't really love it that much? I don't know. I wasn't obsessed with it. I didn't really connect to the characters as much as everyone else was connecting with the characters, so it's a C tier book for me, unfortunately. That one and Thunderhead, which is the second one. Up next, The Stone Gods by Jeanette Winterson. Super forgettable, and I remember hating the experience of reading it, so game over for that one. Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. I remember being very intrigued by it. I read this for a first year university course, but it wasn't that good though. Like, it was just intriguing because we had a lot of different POVs that were like animalistic, which is fun. And Nnedi Okorafor is such an interesting writer. So just because I don't remember it very well, I think I'm gonna put it right in front of Binti. But yeah, I read it at a time where one, I was super scared of sci-fi and didn't read really any sci-fis. Two, just really didn't understand books like this. So, and I don't think I'll ever reread it, even though it should be in a try again. Next, we have Brave New World, which is another classic that I really didn't like. So we're gonna put it in game over. Don't come for me for this one. I read this in high school because I had to, and I really didn't like the experience of it. And Maze Runner. This is another one that I read in high school that I loved in high school. I loved the first book, and then the next books just kind of left it to the side for me. Didn't really love it so much. So this one is, oh God. Yeah, Maze Runner was fine. And I think it's slightly better than those three, but it's still a C tier book. And like the whole series as a whole is not very good. I really enjoyed it in high school. I was one of the Maze Runner girlies. Divergent, like the Maze Runner, was a huge love of my life until that final book, but I still liked it more than the average person. So it's gonna go in there. It's gonna go well above Maze Runner. But anyways, next up, Frankenstein. This is an A-tier book. We love the spookiness. Hate Victor Frankenstein with my entire goddamn life, but the book Frankenstein, we love Mary Shelley. She's a queen. We're putting it in A-tier. Next up, Keeper of the Isis Light. Bad, straight up, just not good. Read it for book club. Hunger Games. The first book, S-tier. Second book, S-tier. Third book is a C-tier book. But as a whole, as an entire trilogy, it's an A-tier series. It stands up. It's great. Super quick reads, well written. Last time I was reading The Hunger Games, it was editing Suzanne Collins' writing as I was going. So maybe not necessarily well written, but well crafted. There you go. The next one is Airborne by Kenneth Opel. Honestly, couldn't tell you what it's really about, except for it's about a kid who's on an airship. I did enjoy it when I read it, I think. I'm gonna put it there. I don't really remember that much about it, and I don't ever want to reread it. This next one, you cannot see the title, but it is The Chrysalids by John Wyndham, which is another book club pick. And I remember reading The Chrysalids, both this one and Chalky, but Chalky's not sci-fi, I don't think. But this one is more leaning sci-fi, fantasy-ish. And I remember each time I go to pick up a John Wyndham, I'm sus because I'm like, I'm gonna hate this. But then I read it and I'm like, actually, it wasn't that bad. But it's still a C-tier book for me. We're gonna put it there. Yeah, because I did enjoy it more than those books. What a weird one. John Wyndham. Interesting. This is How You Lose the Time War. This one is a try again. Why? Because when I read it, I didn't understand a damn thing. And not in the way of Gideon or The City We Became. In the like, what happened, I don't understand and I don't know if I enjoyed it kind of a feeling. Definitely need to reread that one. Probably need to reread it and like look up some video essays on it and stuff like that, because I feel like it's one of those books that I would have loved to study in university with someone who actually was like well acquainted with the work and understood it. But as of right now, your girl's got no thoughts in her brain. And that one was hard. Next and last, we have The Blood Trials by N.E. Davenport, which is a sci-fi fantasy. And this one was okay for me. Again, didn't hit, but I am going to be rereading it because the sequel is just out and I have it coming from the library eventually. So I want to give it a better chance because I feel like I should really love this book. I'm going to give it a better chance and I'm going to read the sequel as well and see how that works. But as of right now, she's a C-tier book for me. I'm so sorry. Where am I gonna put it? I think maybe at the top of C tier. Yeah, that feels right for me. So these are all of the sci-fi books that I have read in my life. Do you agree with me? Do you want to fight me over some of the books that I've put in the game over or in the C tier? Please let me know. I'd love to know. Or do you agree with me with some of these rankings? Most importantly though, do you have any sci-fi recommendations for me? Because I need to add more to my list and I need to read more sci-fi in my life because it is a fantastic genre and I'm so mad that I've slept on it for so long. Anyways, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with me as I go through all 50 plus sci-fi books that I have read in my life. And I will catch you in another video very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.